Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast for your mental health, the State of Mind podcast. So I'm Wilson. I will be your host for today, and I'm joined by two of my lovely co-hosts, Janelle and Jonathan, for episode 2, which is gonna be on bullying, as well as a special invited guest that we have, who's a friend of me and John's. Hi, Wayne. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Wayne. I'm from Tampines Region Junior College. Previously from H.O.L.A, and I'm basically Jonathan and Wilson's friend for about 8 years at this point. Yeah. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for coming on as well, I guess. All right. So do I need to introduce myself again? Like, or what? No need, right?
I think
Janelle?
So let's get on with the topic.
Wayne
of
never
the-
introduced himself.
He did.
He did.
I did.
No, he never introduced like I came from this school. and
He
stuff.
did.
I did.
Like,
He did.
I did.
He did.
He just
Jonathan,
did.
you are deaf. You are deaf, my guy.
No, he did. I think I forgot.
All right, well, a great way to start a podcast. So today's topic is on bullying, like I said just now.
So I guess we can start by saying what bullying means to us, like our personal definition.
I mean, for me, bullying, there are many forms, lah. It could be completely direct or completely indirect. So things like, physical bullying I've witnessed before. As well as just bullying someone by leaving them out completely of things.
More common one.
Like ostracizing.
Yeah, this is definitely a more common one. Yeah.
I think people don't intentionally do it, like ostracizing. Like some people do. Like those people are like terrible, but like I think some people just don't realize it.
The thing about ostracizing is that I think amongst kids, it's less sort of malicious. But as you grow older and you like ostracize someone, it becomes more and more like you're intentionally doing it, right?
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, like the people, it's just kind of like it's not like you want to purposely hurt the person. You just kind of don't go well with the person. You don't really.
For me
Yeah.
personally, what bullying, like the types of bullying I've seen is like probably like more commonly like the recent increasing trend is like cyberbullying and like verbal abuse, physical abuse. Yeah, those types.
Honestly, physical abuse isn't so prominent, at least in our school. We're just like very sheltered.
Yeah. In Daman High, it's like
Yeah.
you rarely see it.
Yeah.
In most schools nowadays, no, you
Is
don't
it?
really see. Okay, so for me, it's basically what y'all have said already. But the most common one I've kind of seen is like verbal bullying. Just like teasing and stuff, maybe taking a bit too far, ending up hurting somebody, even though it's not like intentional. I guess I haven't really seen much of ostracizing really. Maybe just because I don't really pay attention. Just get me, I guess. And like digital is like, I don't know, man. I don't really see it. Unless it's like teasing taken too far once again.
For me, I don't think I can place an actual name onto examples of bullying. Since after all, methods of bullying constantly change with more ways of communication. However, I think a general way to define bullying would be that anything that is continued harassment that makes people more uncomfortable, basically.
Yeah, well, student. Alright, so okay, so now that we've kind of set our like boundaries or like definitions of bullying, I guess we can talk more in depth about like I guess what we've experienced and stuff.
Right.
So Wayne, you mentioned just now you had seen and experienced so if you are comfortable to like kind of share with some possible experiences.
Okay, I'll say about what I've seen first, because what I've experienced isn't exactly physical bullying. So I'll just address what I've mentioned first. Within my Sec 1, Sec 2 class, right, there was this one guy. I won't name anyone just to preserve anonymity. I will say he is a bit weird. So his actions were quite odd, quite like quirky. and in that sense, no one really wanted to associate with him because of the entire thoughts culture in secondary school during that age, anyways. So there was a point, I believe in Sec 2, where he just kept standing around and watching people do stuff, right? So he looked over their shoulders when they were playing games and stuff like that. And one of my classmates took offense to that, so he started shoving him around quite frequently. So on a daily basis, if he just doesn't like the fact that he's around, he just starts shoving, just starts pushing him around. And there was a point where I believe during recess one day, he was fully shoved onto the floor with quite a bit of force. And I believe his specs broke and sort of cut his face.
Oof.
Yeah. So that was the most serious incident, as far as it was taken. But yeah, it's still quite a vivid memory because I was one of the few people who was around during that point in time.
So no one went up to stop him?
We tried to hold him back, but my classmate is physically much bigger than all of us. Because we were just Sec 2s then, So even though we tried to hold him back, he still managed to sort of while struggling against us, get a full-on shove on the guy.
Wow.
Oh, so you guys were actually trying to stop her.
We were trying to de-escalate the situation, but it still happened.
Right.
The teachers end up getting involved. Oh,
Teachers, I don't think we ever reported it.
no.
Is that a culture at your school?
Kind of. It's at least in Sec 3, Sec 4, right? Things were much more peaceful. But in Sec 1, Sec 2, there were a lot of altercations that just went unreported. Because if it was reported, a lot of people will be implicated. So we just left it as you have to settle your own stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So that's just one of I think that's the biggest incident I've seen. Mostly.
But were people affected in any way? Besides, alright, let's first talk about the person who was shoved around, right? Were there any changes that you saw in him or anything after the incident? How did it affect him?
I honestly don't think it affected him all that much.
Not in an obvious kind of way.
Not an obvious kind of way at all.
Right.
Because, okay, I think he has he's somewhat on the spectrum he wasn't exactly phased too much by things, so it sort of just seemed another daily occurrence to him. The next moment he just stood up, picked himself back up, and he's just staring into space.
That's really sad to think about.
Yeah.
You can imagine what kind of daily, how people dream daily, such that even an incident such as this, where most people would consider taking it too far, would be considered just something very mundane.
Yeah. It really can't be helped. I've heard that in his Sec 3, Sec 4 class, that he was treated the same way. Not physically. He was similarly sort of left out a lot of things because of his personality. It's not pleasant.
Not personality. It's more of just his habits
Yeah, his habits just seeming odd to others. And then therefore he's left out.
What about you? How were you affected when you saw that how he was bullying throughout the entire time, and then compare that to how you felt at the moment when you saw him getting pushed to the floor and getting his face cut?
For me, I was okay. I have to say, because of the entire culture of our school being more sort of everything confined to students can talk about it, but you never go to the teachers kind of thing, right? Unless it's a really big incident. I couldn't do much about it. So I was just, okay, this is happening. And personally, I felt bad for him. But because of the general consensus, and I think at the time I was also trying to be I was also trying my best to fit in with the general populace in my class. So I didn't say much about it at all. So I was just okay, this happened to him. I feel terrible about it, but I can't do anything about it. I can't say anything about it at all.
Right.
I don't know. In hindsight, I probably would have
Mm.
tried to intervene a bit if like current me was there.
Mm.
But at the time, I really just did not do anything.
But honestly, I think it's really difficult for people to actually just step up and say something about it.
Mm.
Like it's much easier to say in hindsight that what you did wasn't wrong, right? Like I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have these kinds of situations.
Yeah,
Where we
definitely.
look back and then think, hey, this mistake could have easily been avoided. But when you're in the actual situation right then I think it takes a tremendous amount of courage to actually do something different. To actually do what you would do in the future, you know?
Mm.
So I think it's actually, you don't have to beat yourself up over the fact that you didn't think at that point of time.
Yeah, okay. I feel bad about it, but I've just accepted it as something I can't change. Right? Because it's an event of the past. So I've just been determined to like learn from the situation and then move on.
I was gonna say, like, you know how you said like you fear that because you're trying to fit in with everyone else. Like you feel like if you helped him or in some way, you might be associated with him, and then you might also be ostracized together with him. So I think that's that fear also.
Yeah, it's like risking your social status by standing up, right? Within the class and like the hierarchy within there. So I think in most scenarios, that is also a very big factor as to why people don't step up. Because by stepping up, you are risking everything that you've worked to, like, you know, build relationship between people. Unless you are really respected or really high in like the class hierarchy already and you try to step in to like protect him. But other than that, if you are in like the middle or like even, especially if you're in the lower parts where you could easily fall into like the being bullied category, it's very hard to put yourself out there in like, because you're in so much fear of being in the same position as him. You know?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying. In fact, I think it's like, it's not just specifically for boys' school. I think for most schools, there's kind of been like the same kind of scenario situation. Not necessarily like the bullying, but like more so, it's very difficult to step up just because like what you say, you don't want to get ostracized, you don't want to get like left out. Even though like you know or you feel like it's the best thing to do, the correct thing to do, it's still like super hard to do it. So yeah, that's take quite a bit of courage.
I think there was this one time like in primary school when like I didn't know that I think I accidentally like, you know, ostracized like some people. So like I had a clique like, you know, in primary school, like a bunch of friends that I go to, you know, recess with. Then, you know, we would always like, I don't know why, no, it sounds very childish, but we would go to the toilet to just avoid a single goal. Like I didn't know this was happening. I just followed them. So like I just did whatever they did. So I didn't know. Like you could see that the girl who was being ostracized, like I think she noticed us. Like I didn't notice it like myself. If I did, because I think afterwards I felt bad, but like I didn't know at the time. So like, what are you supposed to do in that situation?
As like when you're younger, right? Like your maturity isn't there enough to notice that you are, you know, leaving people out per se.
No,
so it's very hard for you to like be aware of it and then try to change it, in my opinion.
Because I think I noticed that we were just not going to recess with her. Like she wasn't going with us. But you know, it was in primary school. Clearly, the development is not there.
Right, all this talk is making school sound like an actual war zone. I think we should lighten the mood a little bit. Go with a lighter topic, just a slight bit more light topic.
Okay, no, but I feel like this is kind of like just usually what happens in school. Really,
yeah, like, it's unavoidable though. If you talk about bullying, a lot of these things do happen.
It's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Like personally, I don't think I have, you know, experienced bullying on like myself that much. You know, that much. I don't think I have at all. Like generally, the people I've met, they are pretty, you know, friendly and nice. Like to me, obviously, yeah.
Sometimes if you like actually notice it or you like see it, I guess it just kind of means that it's at the point where it's like already unfixable, I guess. Like it's kind of already gone too far to a point where it's just like it's very hard to
It's very hard to
intervene.
rectify whatever you've done.
Yeah,
Because of the
especially
lengths
if like
you've gone to already.
yeah, I guess. And I think it's even harder for like even if you're like a third party person or whatever. If you're not like even if you're involved, it's still really hard to intervene in this sort of situations. It's just I don't know. It always feels like there's no like correct or like okay, there's the politically correct thing that you should be doing. Where it's like you should be standing up for the person, but it's like
That's the
of course
politically
easier said
correct
than
and
done.
like situationally correct thing to do, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
easier, but it's still like we discussed easier said than done, and it's like kind of yeah, it's hard to make the move without like getting backlash, I guess,
Yeah,
from the people
definitely.
around you. Like it's just,
Right.
that's just how the culture of like you kind of just leave people to do their own things, kind of.
Yeah.
I guess that you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, like John said, this is getting a bit too yeah.
A little
I
bit
mean-
too deep, maybe.
Let's just move on to the
Too
next
harsh,
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so I think I think we've already said most of what we wanted to say, so I think we should move on to like more of the cyber world, I guess. Game
the
toxicity.
like the trends in like bullying, how they have changed, like like games and like social media.
So as someone who's played quite a bit of games, I think I've kind of experienced my share of toxicity in games, especially like the more some games that have reputation of being more toxic as compared to others. For example,
Usually
such
the
as
more
like
competitive ones.
usually mostly competitive ones. Some example I can give is just like a game that I played quite a bit recently, like League of Legends. It's definitely one of the more games that suit this category, I guess. It's like really competitive, it's a really competitive game, 5v5, I guess you can say, where it's like every person has like a part to play or whatever in the game, and if one person like does badly, the whole team just kind of falls apart. So I guess that's where like kind of the toxicity comes from. It's like the competitiveness of the players, of ranked anxiety or whatever, which is like to explain ranked is like you in a game where it's like you'll get matched up against people of like similar skill level, which is determined by your rank. So you have to do like placements or whatever to get into a certain rank as you play more to try and like rank up through winning games. So yeah, I think people are like obsessed with winning. Like they have a bit too competitive of a mindset. So I guess that's kind of where like the game toxicity kind of breeds, I guess,
Like
from
stems from?
the
Like stems from?
yeah, it stems from like the competitiveness of the players plus the fact that one person can just like mess up your whole game, I guess. Are there any other games that you guys played that had like this kind of same idea, I guess?
Personally, I don't play the game, but I've heard Valorant. They have a very like the chat during games is very toxic.
Really? Didn't you play Valorant?
I did, but I don't play it so often because I get very angry playing it.
Oh, then you end up
Valorant game.
becoming a toxic person.
No,
You're
no,
a part of the issue.
okay. No, my rule of thumb is I do not like because I feel like why people say those things is because of online
Anonymity.
yes, thank you. Yeah, because people don't know who they are. They hide behind these names and they're like, they feel like they can say anything that they want. So personally, I follow this rule where like don't do that because I still like respect the people there.
They may not be good at the game, but they're still humans behind the
Yeah,
screen.
like even though they're not good, like I think like because everyone starts off not good, so like I think they're just trying their best, Yeah. But like the chat like during I think I've seen some clips on like online where like Valorant chats they become very toxic. I think it's in like the heat of the moment. They just say these things. I don't think like some of them don't regret it even. I feel like.
I mean, they just say it and they move on.
Yeah.
As a person who's also like Wilson plays League of Legends, I have seen quite a fair share of people just, saying really, really like bad things in the heat of the moment. So I have a personal friend who has on record scolded and cursed someone's entire family line because like how badly they play in the game. So I would say that's one of the more extreme scenarios. But
but I feel like in games like, okay, since both you and I have played League for quite some time, I feel like it's just kind of the general League community is just kind of like that.
No, it's evolved over the years. Because I did play like when I was much younger. I think in 2014. Like people are generally much nicer like then. But I think as more people like come in, and then especially streamers showing off like their own toxicity as an example to others and not getting punished for it, so it seems fine.
Yeah, streamers like Tyler One and stuff.
Yeah, Tyler One. I think Tyler One's the most well known.
Yeah.
But the fact that he didn't get punished for it has just set a precedent for especially the younger and more influenceable people that, I can act this way as well and it's not wrong. It's just a part of what I'm playing. It's okay to feel these things. It's okay to like do these things and say these things to others.
That's kind of like normalized in the game culture for this specific game.
Yeah, for this specific game. And I mean, if you want to draw linkages to another similar game, I mean, I've seen Mobile Legends players type extremely offensive things in chat that I cannot say here for the sake of having this be approved.
Because we are a very safe podcast where we do not say anything offensive.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, dude.
Ignore the beeps. Ignore the beeps. Ignore the beeps.
But personally, as someone who is unlike, who doesn't play these kinds of games, I personally play a lot of RPG kind of games, MMORPGs, where there isn't a lot of competition between players, but rather most of it being like PvE kind of setting, as in like player versus environment
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not so much the competition between players. So there isn't any kind of there isn't much bullying in a sense coming from there, all the toxicity and everything. But for some reason there's still room for toxicity in such games. So one thing that people often do, which is detrimental to actually many RPGs, is doing something called sport killing. So it's basically when you play a game and a beginner just enters the game. But because they're a beginner, they don't have much equipment. Then here comes some level 647
Mafia boss.
Yeah, Mafia boss with like extremely powerful equipment, who just like stands at the newbie spawn area and just keeps swinging his weapons around. So like people just keep dying and can't actually enjoy the game properly. And then when people start complaining, they just laugh at them and just basically blame this entire thing on their own lack of game hours and things like that.
For a lot of, I think, John, you're talking about MMOs, right? Which are like, RPGs with a lot of players involved, like very online and multiplayer style.
Right.
A lot of this stems from like a gatekeeping type of culture where people think that, I've spent so much hours, I've done so much for this game. Like new players who know nothing about it shouldn't be allowed to play this game or have fun, kind of thing.
But like, I think this can also be very much related to actual bullying, since sometimes there isn't really, like, it's the reason for the bullying itself isn't very rational, but there's still some people just feel the desire and the need to bully,
So to say about the you're saying like why people do this kind of stuff. I guess some people who play games have like self-esteem issues sometimes. It's like, so this kind of like their escape, and it's like if they gotten bullied before, they kind of just want to get it out of their system and stuff. So
I mean, there's a possibility, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people, games are like treated as an escape, like from reality and from their status in real life. So they take the opportunity to do things that maybe were like they couldn't or wouldn't do in real life, or have been done to them, and they try to inflict that onto others. I think it's a very realistic possibility, lah.
Quick disclaimer: we are not actually experts in any of the things we're saying. We're just speaking from our own personal observations from day to day.
Please do not use any of what we say as like
Just take everything we just say with a pinch of salt.
Please just take everything we say with a pinch of salt, and if you do experience any of these situations and have any of these emotions, please do seek a professional, because we are only just a bunch of junior college students and we hope that you can like seek a professional if you do require help. And this is definitely not, I repeat, definitely not a good source to help you with such problems. So we are just trying to raise awareness and hope that in doing so, people will either seek the attention and help they need, or try and like be more mindful of what they do when it comes to this sort of situations.
Except for me, I'm actually a professional.
Of course.
Nothing there. Okay, so after that wonderful disclaimer, let's talk about my experience with game toxicity. Okay,
Okay.
so as someone who's played games for quite a bit, I've had some history of being like overly attached to games, I guess you can say. And I've had experiences of getting overly angry and like venting anger through games. Cause like I guess you can say just venting mostly through games.
Sure.
So usually when I have like this sort of situation, I kind of just nowadays I just kind of just try to guess mute and like vent my anger without like trying to harm others. But there are some situations like when I play with friends, like I kind of get a bit too caught up, I guess, in playing games or whatever. I just kind of snap, you can say, and just kind of like start being overly harsh, I guess. Like I know it's not the correct thing to do, but I guess my anger just gets to me.
Like in the heat of the moment kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, okay, as I've established, right, because me and Wilson play very similar games, there are a lot of experiences that I've also gone through that are quite similar in a way that, despite trying to internalize like my anger sometimes, when it reaches a certain point, it will just sort of boil out. And I can't stop it, in a sense. So I maybe unintentionally, like, say really offensive and sort of like hurtful things because of someone's actions in a game, which is really not the best.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess it's important to just always be more mindful when we're playing games and just like interacting online as much as possible. Just be more mindful about what we're saying. Always keep yourself in check, I guess.
I will say, remember always that no matter what, it's just a game. This
Right.
has zero implications, unless of course you're a professional player, but that's a one in
If a very
a
big
few
if.
million of like our population. But it's really just a game. There is no implication whatsoever on your real life and your real life situation unless you allow it to. So I think that's a very good way of controlling like your mental state. Like just have fun.
Well said. Well said.
Have any of you experienced bullying, like personally?
The way I was bullied is quite how I'd say I was bullied is quite not traditional. Like not what you commonly describe like what we set up as bullying. So admittedly during the period of time I wasn't the best person. So I sort of kept, pestering people to do stuff. I kept sort of asking people to do things here and there. I was quite arrogant in a sense. So what ended up happening was I believe at the end of Sec 2, I was in a particular clique, right? And I think I reached a point where they are sort of like dissent, or like not dissent, but like discontention with me. So started showing. And little by little, they just started leaving me like out absolutely everything. So I won't lie, because I thought these people were especially close to me. It hurt a lot. But looking back, I can honestly fully understand why they did it.
Did you ever talk to like someone about it?
Yeah, I did. I mean, at the start it was hard, right? Because you kind of just, for me at least, I just basically lost all my friends. And there was a particular person that was sort of spreading, basically, I would say malicious rumors about me behind my back to other people. So saying that, oh, this person is blah blah blah, I shouldn't befriend him. Like, he's very like toxic, he's very like, he's just really bad in general as a friend. So it took a while before I could talk to someone about it. And that being like, my current one of my closest friends. And to this day, I'm pretty sure only 3 people know about it. Yeah, like in detail, I would say. So
I was about to say 3 people know it. Well, now a lot more people are gonna.
yeah, you're not wrong though.
Yeah, but I'm glad you were able to like overcome your. I guess you like help yourself out to see. I don't know what to say. That sounds very weird. I'm glad you're kind of like able to like resolve your situation. I guess.
I can accept
not
it.
exactly
Like you know, it's a necessary part of my development as like a person. Because without that, honestly, I probably wouldn't be who I am today. Even though it has had some pretty severe repercussion, like you know, in the short term. So maybe like the first half year to a year, my confidence in a lot of things was like quite severely, you know.
During that time when you're transitioning from being very hurt and then finally like recovering fully and go on to become better in the long run.
Yeah.
During that period, how will you like use any methods to better cope with your emotions at that point?
To be fully honest, it's very hard for me to cope. Like for the first 3 or 4 months, I was just like, in denial in a sense, I'd say. And just, looking for, especially because I just entered a new class in Sec 3, right? And I started talking to more people and so just like playing games with them and just sort of running away from the situation. And it's only, I think, near April or May that I properly confronted it and, said to myself, I can't be like this any longer. Yeah. I did during that time go through like a very severe, I guess, depressive episode, but that's like besides the point right now.
Right.
Yeah, so afterwards it's just a matter of me accepting that okay, it's I don't know if whether like this way of thinking is healthy, but it's not so much as other people's fault as it is my own fault, and the only person I can change is myself. So moving forward, that's what I have to do and just ensure that I become a better person. So it was a lot of internal struggling. So I can say.
Mad props.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to like do such a thing that you said. And I think like the mindset you said is kind of I guess the schools would call it a growth mindset, I guess. It's kind of, even though it's like sometimes you might like hurt yourself, I guess. It's kind of just always look to improve and better yourself. Yeah, you will eventually like
you will move past it, you will become a better person.
Yeah.
As long as you don't allow yourself to be consumed by that, which very, very nearly happened to me. But that's the topic for another time, definitely.
Right. On a lighter note, have you like gone through like social media and then just find people saying more negative things in the comments?
Yeah,
definitely.
Right. Like there's been quite a lot in the past few years I've noticed.
Probably like
Twitter.
I mean, not just Twitter.
I was gonna say Twitter is one of the most common.
In itself is a cesspit of like toxicity and just harassment in general happens so much on Twitter.
I mean, Twitter is just not fun place for many people. It's like there's stuff like cancel culture and stuff mainly on Twitter. It's just kind of, and then the comments on Twitter posts, if you like read through them, there's always quite a bit of like negative ones. There's some nice ones, I guess, but most of it is just negativity, I guess.
A lot of it is like negativity directed at either like the poster or whoever they're responding because of like, they just don't like that you said that thing or that you did that thing. So
Would it be considered like cyberbullying? Like, say you're on Twitter and then someone like you posted something of like something like you're really proud of, and then someone comes and says that it's really, really
just bad.
and then they like just write like
okay.
They just attack you personally.
I don't think I've never posted anything on Twitter before, but I'm pretty sure like I feel like stuff has happened to other people before though. Like probably definitely on Twitter.
Like they get
It's like
personally attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so there's one example I can think of. It's not exactly like Wait, there's this guy called Disguised Toast who's popped off recently. So he started off as a Hearthstone streamer and now he gradually evolved to become a more Among Us player when it was like popular like around last year. So he recently got like cancelled, I guess you can say, on Twitter because cancel culture for like being overly edgy, I guess. And like yeah, even though he's like always had kind of that personality, I guess.
It's just been his persona for a very long time. But because
Yeah.
recently, like, some people started taking offense to it. So they started, like, digging out things that, to try to cancel him with.
Yeah, I think especially it's because of like how much he's grown in the last year and like more people, more audiences have been exposed to him through like other streamers and stuff. I guess that's the main reason.
Like, imagine like you're the one being personally attacked. Like how like you would feel really like you don't even know this person. Why are they attacking you? Like they don't know you personally. So like what would you do in that sense? I don't know.
I think for me, in my personal mindset, like, that very reason is why I wouldn't care. Like,
You don't know them.
if it's people I know who are like, hyping me up, so to speak, I would be like very thankful to them that, they respect whatever I did and they sort of are encouraging me to keep going. If people I don't know encourage me, so it's like, oh, okay, there are other people that, who never see me before, and they're like,
appreciate what you do.
yeah, they appreciate what I do. So I'll appreciate that as well. But if it's someone who I don't know and they're like insulting me or like, insulting my craft or whatever, like they don't know how much work and like stuff I've put into it. So to that, I don't think I would take offense. I would be definitely like, a bit hurt, but I wouldn't take long-term offense at that or be too hung up on that.
If it were me, I feel like I'm the type of person that would definitely like be hurt by what they said. And it's like probably gonna be harder for me to like kind of want to continue what I'm doing if such a thing ever happened to me. Because it's like, oh, what if I'm doing something that's like people don't like? It's like, should I still continue or whatever? I guess.
Like what's the point? Like if
Yeah,
people don't
kind
like
of.
it, like why should I continue?
If you won't get appreciated for what you do, why keep doing it, right?
Yeah, that kind of. But honestly, if okay, so if something like that were to happen, the best option would probably to be like, if it's like really huge like following of people just like saying bad stuff about you, I guess just staying away from social media would probably like deal with the problem a bit. Because there are some influencers who have said stuff like if social media is hurting you, you should probably like just stay away from it, because like you don't exactly need it to survive. Like
No,
obviously there's like FOMO, fear of missing out, but it's like if you ever need a break from like social media, you can probably just take a break for like 1 week plus, honestly, like if it hurts you.
I think for me, that's personally why I don't use social media all that much as well. Like, I lurk around on Instagram, but that's the limit of it. Like, other than that, I really don't use much else. And I talk to my friends, to just regular messaging apps. I don't really look at stories. I don't really do that much. So it kind of helped to keep a cleaner and healthier mindset after everything has happened.
I think that's good.
And I also think it's important to draw a clear distinction between criticism and just cyberbullying in general. Because sometimes, people genuinely have quality criticisms that can really help us all improve, right? But then sometimes, when behind the screen, you feel more powerful, more protected, and therefore more courageous in what you say. So people commonly end up typing things that wouldn't normally be socially acceptable, such as comments that would be considered bullying or cyberbullying. But then, these criticisms can sometimes be valid, but because of the way they are conveyed, the way that they are typed out, it basically makes entire platforms very unpleasant to be on. So I think it's very important to draw a distinction between bullying and between bullying and criticisms, and to try to steer away from the identified bullying. Because sometimes there's very valid criticisms. For example, I don't know if you guys have this on your feed, but I have a lot of I don't know why also, a lot of combat kind of posts from my For You page. And then there's always some people who are like, yo, this is not ever gonna work in the sheet. Yo, this is never gonna work in the street. This is like, it's just really stupid, it will never work, you know? And then this guy could have spent like many hours trying to come up with the entire routine. So I think it's not very, sometimes it's not very good. Yeah, I just think sometimes it's not very good to phrase it very badly and thus hurt people's feelings.
So be more mindful about how you phrase things, I would say, right?
Yeah, so.
I feel like for most part, even though like you said, like some stuff on the internet can be like constructive criticism, I feel like most of it is like the majority of it is probably just people voicing out their opinions and like whatever.
Right, that could be
I don't think most of it will be useful, in fact. Because there are some people who like have talked about like you just kind of learn to like not read the comments. I guess some influencers have said like they just kind of learn to like not read the comments because there's always going to be negativity in there. That's why stuff like YouTube has like negativity filters, I guess. There's always going to be people who like don't agree or like dislike you as a person or whatever. And even if they are given like criticism, like sometimes it's not exactly like super useful because like you don't know who they are as a person. You don't know like whether they're doing this because they actually genuinely like know something about it or they just need to vent or whatever. I don't know.
I mean, there's some people who just want to bend, whatever
Yeah,
the influencer is doing to their own liking.
And stop right there. This is the end of this segment with our friend Wayne, who was kind enough to agree to take time out of his day to talk to us. So, to end this segment, a quick disclaimer from us. We are junior college students whose main goal is to raise awareness on issues with mental health. We have no expertise in such areas. Hence, if such situations have happened to you and you require help, please do look for a professional as it will help greatly. Speaking of which, we were given the opportunity to conduct an interview with someone with such qualifications from Silver Ribbon.
Hi everyone. So today we'll be having an interview with Christabelle here from Silver Ribbon Singapore. Would you like to like introduce yourself to like the podcast?
Hi everybody, I'm Christabelle. I'm a clinical executive with Silver Ribbon. So what that means basically is I'm one of the counselors there. So I do the counseling sessions and I do talks and workshops to raise awareness. So thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for taking the
coming.
time for coming. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll start out with the first question. So what is like a major misconception you have had about bullying until you've joined Silver Ribbon?
Okay. I think that something that I had as a misconception, and not just me, even like people around me, and even some of the clients that I'm dealing with now, right, is that you only consider it bullying when it gets to the point where you see all the very obvious signs, getting picked on, or feeling left out, or feeling out of place, or feeling lesser than the other person. And I think a very, very, very big misconception I had is that it's only when it's to that extent, when it's bad enough for everybody to acknowledge it, is when it's called bullying. But that's not really true, and I think that's something that a lot of people are dealing with as well.
In that case, then like what do you think, like where should we draw the line to like what is considered bullying and what's considered like teasing, I guess? Where should the line be drawn?
I feel like as long as you are feeling uncomfortable and you don't feel safe, you're not looking forward to going to school or even any other social gathering with other people, then I think that there might be some form of bullying. When you start to feel like your character as a person is being put down and not your work or the things that you are doing. So that is when bullying is involved. So it's because you will always come across a situation, especially when you go into the workforce, school and stuff, where people criticize your work. That's normal. But if you start criticizing you as a person, your character, things that you do, criticizing your family, your upbringing, then that becomes borderlining of bullying. And it's important to be able to understand and identify that, because a lot of people don't. Only assume that it's only a problem when I am directly assaulted, whether it's with verbal abuse or physical abuse, but it shouldn't be where the line is drawn.
So if let's say I was being bullied, how would I be able to cope with it?
So I think that something that I I deal with. Like, let me just share with you about a client that I have. So she's a 14-year-old girl, and she came because she started to feel like she was getting bullied, or in her point of view, it was being ostracized by the people around her, and it was because she didn't hold the same values as the people around her did. So I think that the biggest concern that she had was, I don't want to get help from anybody, because if I tell someone of authority, I will be singled out, and I'm basically snitching on everybody, and that's not taken very well. So I think that's something that came up, and something that I talked to her about is really having some form of support. If you are not open to talking to an adult about it, or someone that you trust about it, at least talking to a friend or a family member that you are close to, talking about it is really the first step to getting help. Because sometimes when you are not confident enough to make the decisions for yourself, you have all the reasons why you don't want to get help, all the reasons why you don't want to talk about it to someone, or let someone know what you're going through. Going through it and running it through somebody else from a third person perspective, it really gives you better clarity and helps open your eyes to other forms of help that might be available for you. So I really think that the best thing you can do for yourself is just talking about it, whether it's with your friends, with your family members, with your parents, with a counselor, anybody that you feel comfortable speaking about it with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very good like the way you phrased it and the way you like talked about it. I think it's very good because I think for most people of our age, I think we've had like this thought of like, oh, I don't really want to like get single. I don't really want to be like made fun of for like not being able to take care of myself. So I think that's like really great example. Thank you very much.
No,
Moving on, because you said being ostracized and whatever, it's like many people usually when they think about bullying, they think about like, oh, getting teased, physical bullying and other sort of stuff. Like, so it's like, what are the most common types of bullying that you've encountered with, and like, yeah, how have you had clients who needed to like, I guess, get help because of like it's gotten too far?
Yeah. So I think the most common kind of bullying that we see, especially nowadays, is verbal bullying or cyberbullying. And I think that it is because we are in a very evolved society. Back then with our parents' generations, physical bullying might have been the most common. But now with all sorts of different means available, verbal bullying, cyberbullying comes up. And it's gotten to a point where I've had a client, she started cutting herself every time she noticed that there was any comment about her on her social media pages about anything that she was doing. And it got really bad to the point where her parents only figured it out because once she actually cut her wrist too deep. So it wasn't a suicide attempt. It was just so happens to have an issue with what she was doing, and she didn't do it like safely, I guess. So she cut too deep and she ended up having to go to the hospital. And that's when people started to find out, oh, okay, this is what's going on with my daughter. She's going through all these things. I didn't even know that she was getting cyberbullied. So I think that that's a very clear case. And when I started having conversations with her about it, she wanted to keep a front. Like what you said, Wilson. A lot of people your age, they think that I don't want to tell people about it because telling them about it will be acknowledging that I am not strong enough to handle my issues. But actually, that is not true, because you become braver because you are someone that is willing to talk about it. And whenever I give any talks or workshops, right, I always get people ask me, what you asked me earlier, what do we do? How can we help people that are going through these things? And I always say talk, because with mental health, even with bullying, there's so much stigma surrounding it and associated with it, right? But if people around you start talking about the small things, like, oh, today I felt like left out of my class because, like, for example, everybody got picked to join like their teams during our PE lesson except me, so I felt singled out. Small things like this that may seem insignificant to you, the more you talk about it, people around you will start realizing, oh, actually, if they are willing to talk about this, and maybe I can talk about my issues as well. So it's not only about if you are experiencing big amounts of bullying, even the small things that affect you, being able to talk about it creates a culture where people are more willing to talk. And then this whole worry about talking means I'm weak or I'm not strong enough will become less and less of a problem. So instead of trying to change everything 180 degrees, right, it's really step by step. So I think that these are things that we can focus on. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the talking part. As in, if we are more open, then our friends will be also, more encouraged to like share their own like experiences. So you also mentioned like the one of your clients, they started cutting themselves, like physical harm to themselves. Other than that, what other like short term or long term like mental health like effects would be like experienced by the victims?
I think that definitely there will be a lot of stress involved. So the thing about mental health issues, right? There's no one cause of it, and for example, someone that is dealing with stresses in terms of bullying, they can develop different kinds of things. The most common things that develop is anxiety issues. Being having high levels of anxiety about going to school and being around the people that are causing these feelings, signs of depression, not wanting to wake up, not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to be able to manage all these issues. These are the most common, but they are not the only kinds of mental disorders that develop. There are so many different kinds that can develop, but these are the most common ones. Yeah.
So, for example, I'd say I'm a friend of someone who's being bullied. Like but like when they talk to me, like I feel overwhelmed. So how do I like support them, but at the same time I still like I'm mentally still like available for them, like emotionally?
I think that's a really good question, and it's something that a lot of people are concerned about. So the thing about supporting a friend, peer support is really great, right? Everybody should do it. Everybody should be there and be available for our friend, but it's also within your means. So, for example, if you cannot commit to doing everything for your friend, don't start doing it. Let me give you an example, okay? If your friend has started to get help, going to the school counselor or going to see a psychologist, right? If you are able to accompany them for every single appointment, then great, follow them. But if you're not able to do that, you can let them know, okay, I'll accompany for the first one, so we can do it together. But for subsequent ones, you're gonna have to do it on your own. If you set these boundaries early, letting them know that, okay, these are the boundaries that I have. I will not have to say yes to every single thing. I shouldn't be doing out of obligation. If you're starting to do things out of obligation, naturally, that's not the right reason to be going into help. It means that your mental well-being is going to be affected. So knowing what your boundaries are, drawing them from the start is really important. Next, don't do things by yourself. If you have a friend that is going through something, rope in other people to join you. Why? So that you're not the only one that your friend is dependent on. There are more people to turn to. So in the event that you need to take care of yourself or you are busy, you won't feel like, oh, I need to drop everything now to reply this message because my friend needs me. It's more of, okay, I'm busy. You can turn to the other people. That's things to worry about. So it's really about making sure that you do things within your means, but really know how to say no when you need to. Prioritize your mental well-being. Taking care of it is important. Having coping strategies, things that you can do to de-stress and to unwind. And also, the most important thing, knowing when it's time for you to bring your friend and refer them to professional help. Because there will always be a time where there might be things that you don't know how to help or you don't know what to say. Now, let me just ask you, Janelle and Wilson, if your friend tells you, okay, I am suicidal, would you know what to do?
No.
I would, I mean, like, for me, I would think that, like, cause if someone's like normally very happy or very cheery, then it's like they suddenly tell me that, most of the time your brain instantly goes to, is this a joke? They have to be joking, right? Then it's like it's only after repeatedly or like actually seeing like them, their mental state deteriorate, I guess. Then it's like you finally go, wait, this person's being serious. Then it's like I guess maybe it's a bit late to be support.
No, I think that that's a really good point to have lah. So it's really important to identify and understand that there are things that you might not be able to handle. Because if someone tells you that they are suicidal, there's a very high chance that the people around you, especially people your age, might not know how to handle it. So knowing when to refer your friend to the professionals, letting them know that, okay, this is something out of my comfort zone. I cannot help you. I don't really know how to help you, but I know where I can bring you. I can refer you to get the help that you need. Your friend may not be happy about it, but it's really about their lives. Also knowing when they are suicidal, when they are self-harming, want to hurt other people. And what you said, Wilson, about not knowing if your friend is being serious. Something in my line of work is that we take every single case seriously. Why? Because you never really know. Like you said, sometimes there might be people that are happy all the time, and then suddenly they tell you that they're suicidal. I've also dealt with clients that, are happy all the time because it's their saying goodbye. So the behavior like suddenly changes, like first I'm upset, then suddenly I'm very happy, I'm giving away my things, I'm like spending a lot of time with my friends, I seem like I'm normal, but that's a very, very clear warning sign that this person is suicidal. So it might be very hard to make that difference. So, you're right in saying that, you wouldn't know what to do. And then when you finally realize something is up, it might be too late for you to be supportive. I don't think it's ever too late, because knowing that your friend might need help, being able to just tell them, okay, I noticed something is up. Are you okay? What's going on? There are places you can go to get help. I had a client very recently, so she's actually a caregiver in a sense for one of her friends whose mom committed suicide. And her friend was just deteriorating, and because she was deteriorating, not answering, starting to show signs of getting bullied in school. And she didn't know really how to support the friend now. So she actually compiled a list of mental health resources for her friend, because she understood that, okay, I don't know how to help. I don't know what to do or what to say. So these are places you can go. So it's not so much about making sure you know what to say or making sure, you have all the answers, because you're not always going to, but knowing when to refer, being comfortable to do that will be very, very helpful to you.
So talking about peer support and stuff, when do you think should be like, when do you think someone should like if example, if I have like some mental health, like my well-being is going down or whatever, when should I like start seeking for help?
Okay.
Like when do you think
Yeah, I think that's a good question as well. Usually the warning signs we look out for, right, is sleep, appetite, mood, concentration. So for sleep, you're sleeping more than usual, sleeping less than usual, having disrupted sleep means you're waking up a lot in the middle of the night. Very clear sign something is up. Appetite, eating more or less than usual. Mood, you're losing control of your emotions, getting angry easily, having breakdowns very, very frequently, unable to control. And concentration, cannot focus on what you're doing, cannot focus on your work, cannot focus on your conversations. Very clear sign that, your stress levels are too high, you need to get help. So these are usually early warning signs of any mental health issues. And when you notice it in yourself or even in the people around you, it'll be very great to get help. So how do you recommend them to get help? You don't just tell them, I think there's something wrong with you. I think you have depression. That's not going to work, right? So I usually say, look out for physical symptoms. You look very tired. What's going on? Or did you eat? How come you skipped meals today? Are you doing okay? When you bring up physical symptoms, they might be a bit more willing to talk instead of saying, oh, something is wrong with you. You're having so many outbursts, you're crying all the time. So if you point out the physical symptoms, it's easier to get them to open up to you. So these are things you look out for in terms of getting help. And these signs will definitely be very, very visible in people that are getting bullied, because these are very clear warning signs of when stress is too much. And bullying is a source of stress.
So back to like how bullying has changed over the years. Like, is there any worrying trends concerning bullying that you've seen like come up recently?
I think that cyberbullying is really something that is very worrying. Very recently, we've actually ventured into TikTok, like our organizations, and a lot of mental health organizations have as well. But the comment section in TikTok, it can be very, very scary for someone that views it a lot. And these days, a lot of my younger clients, they have their self-esteem and their confidence levels are very tied to their social media accounts, and are tied to what people around them think about them. And if you were to scroll through a comment section, it can get very detrimental very quickly. People have no worries about typing whatever they want. They can become keyboard warriors, right? Because there's anonymity, and with anonymity comes less ability to filter what you say. So I think that that's becoming very, very scary, because as someone that could be on the receiving end, it's not easy to deal with things like that. So being able to talk about it, understand that, the words that you say, the things that you type online on the internet, while you might think you're doing something great, it can greatly affect the other party. And I think that's something very worrying.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of it on like social media platforms.
I think like the like what you just mentioned, like of your clients, right? I think it's very common like for our generation and like somewhat older, like more, okay, not exactly super old, but like maybe mid-20s. I think maybe it's like, I think it's quite common, especially for social media stuff.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It really is. And it can be very scary. because all it takes is one nasty comment to drag down everything else. And there might be a million other great comments, but it's in our nature to only zoom in onto the negative things that we see, because it doesn't really matter about the positive things, and it works for any aspect of our life, right? When we zoom in on the negative things, and that's all we see, and it overshadows everything else. And it works the same way in terms of like bullying, because you may have a million friends that are around, but as long as there's one person that's being mean to you, you only think about that one person.
So for like victims of bullying, like the after effects, right? They still experience it. Like, so how would we, reassure someone that they are doing fine, like they are surrounded by people who care about them?
So my advice is, if the after effects, like you say, are really affecting their ability to function, which means you notice that your friends have zero self-esteem, unable to function, unable to focus, consistently having anxiety issues because of their experiences, they need to get professional help for it. Because they need to talk through what happened, they need to delve into the issues deeper, unpack it, learn how to deal with it, close it up properly, so that it doesn't affect them in the future. Because like you said, it can definitely be carried on. So it only becomes a problem when it's not dealt with well. So being able to talk about it with your friends, keep them in check. Like if you know of someone that was bullied, and okay, the situation has died down, check in on them, like, how are you doing today? Invite them for meals. Let them remember that, it's no longer like that. You have people around you that care about you. Having the social support is important. Just making sure that, they are doing well, and letting them know that you are around when they need you. But if there's no improvement, if they're getting worse, then recommend, okay, professional help.
In saying about how like if you, I guess, okay, so in the situation where like maybe the victim doesn't get like enough help or enough support, it's like, cause it's like usually people always say, oh, the person that gets bullied usually ends up becoming a bully themselves, because like they have these negative emotions that they want to get out. So instead they do, like they go end up bullying someone else just to try and get rid of these emotions. You think this is like a very common, have you worked with bullies before? Like,
I have dealt with people that were bullies, but they are no longer that age now. But I don't think that it's something that is 100% proven. And it really depends, because you are right, there might be a cause for a bully. A bully might have been bullied when they were younger, but there are so many different other reasons why that could happen, that we're not aware of. Like there's never one cause for someone to develop a personality that they do. So it's a bit hard to say that that could be a reason why.
So I'm thinking, like, what if I accidentally bullied someone? Like, I didn't know that, I took it too far. So like, how do I like make sure that that doesn't happen?
I think it's about keeping yourself in check. No, like what we talked about, what are the things that constitute bullying? When you're accidentally bullying someone, like, it's forgivable because it's something that you weren't aware of. But if you do it again, then it becomes a problem, right? So knowing what constitutes bullying, where we talked about earlier, knowing if you're gonna criticize somebody, right? If you're gonna give like constructive feedback, what do you feedback on? The work, not the character, not the person. Keeping yourself in check is very important. If you're someone that is very hot-headed and find yourself saying all these things in the spur of the moment, right? If you're someone that does that, coming up with a habit, getting used to a habit of checking what you say, or taking time to calm down before having a conversation, picking up habits like this will really help to reduce the chance of you going into any form of bullying. So it's about knowing where you stand, knowing what is more likely for you, and working around it so that you reduce the chance of you ever going through an experience where you might be bullying somebody else. So it's knowing what constitutes bullying, knowing the warning signs, knowing what kind of character you have, what kind of personality you have, and making sure that you combine both of them so that you are able to handle it better.
so like I think like, okay, so example is like, if you were to see someone getting bullied, it's like, how do you think like someone should approach it? Like example, I see my friend getting bullied or someone I don't really know. Like what steps should I take to like try and stop it? I guess stop the
Like,
bully.
in the process.
Like, I guess kind of. I don't know
Okay.
really how to phrase it.
I think it really, really depends on the kind of person you are. Because as much as we advocate for, standing up for someone that's getting bullied in that moment, that the fear is still there. And if we're going to be realistic, how likely is it that we would stand up for somebody that's getting bullied in that moment? It might not be very high. So I think the first things first, don't blame yourself for something that's happening like that, because there's a lot of things that are not within your control. And naturally, self-preservation is something that a lot of humans are, it's inclined in us. It's something that we are very, very used to. So don't blame yourself. Reach out to get any form of help. If you're noticing it in the moment, if it's getting physical, if someone is going to get hurt, if you look at someone, their life is threatened, getting someone involved, getting an adult involved that could stop it will definitely help. Why adult? Because it's easier coming from a person of authority versus another student. Because if someone from authority can step in and stop it, it will be a lot better because their authority is taken into account. They have enough say, and people involved might listen to them. So bringing them into the situation will really, really help. Next thing, if it's happened, if you notice it, or maybe you saw it over social media, or if you notice it and then you want to check in on this person, you can just start a conversation with them. You don't even have to bring up the entire topic of bullying. Just, oh, how are you doing? Why? Because someone that has been bullied constantly question their confidence levels, their ability to socialize with people. They will think that, oh, I have no friends. I am not okay. So even if the simple act of checking in, hey, how are you doing today? Or what's going on with you today? Or do you want to have like a meal with me today? Like, you don't even have to talk about the topic, but being able to do that, that does help the situation. And if your friend wants to talk about it, if you're close enough and they want to talk about it, they will bring it up, they'll talk about it with you. But just not faulting yourself for a behavior that you're unable to do is really, really important.
Yeah, I think a lot of people blame themselves for like not being able to, help their friend even if they see it. Like they feel helpless, that kind of feeling.
I think another reason that some people might not be willing to stand in for like someone getting bullied might be like the same thing we talked about just now, like afraid of getting singled out or whatever. It's like trying to be like what some people call the moral high horse or some stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like,
I don't think that there's ever going to be a perfect answer or perfect way to deal with it, because there will be people that will be very willing to do that. Stand up for the person getting bullied. Not caring about their mental well-being or their well-being after it. But it's not the case for everybody. So it's really just making the best out of your situation, because it is really, really important that we understand it. And very recently, because we had an event on bullying on Friday. So we got people like to just talk about it. And, at work we were discussing the title of the event, and one of my colleagues, she wanted to put it stand up, not stand by. And then something that we talked about is that not a lot of people have the ability to choose between standing by and standing up, because exactly like what we're saying, like it's not easy. It's a very, very big decision to make, because you have to think about yourself as well. Think about your ability to handle things. And something that we always tell caregivers, and even friends that can be caregivers, don't commit yourself to something and let your own well-being get deteriorated. Why? Because if you start falling sick, if you cannot handle things, then you have yourself to take care of and your friend to take care of. So taking care of your mental well-being or your well-being at all is not being selfish. It's about making sure that you're in a good position to be able to support somebody else. So I think that these are things that are important to take note of.
So
yeah, I think that's a very good point that you brought up. That's a very good insight. Yeah.
So does like Silver Ribbon organizations have like any other events upcoming?
Hi, Mr. Editor here. So this was recorded around July of 2021, which was last year. So the events that she brought up are kind of over already. But we will include the Silver Ribbon social media links down in the description below. So do check them out, as they have many interesting programs that you should definitely check out. And back to the video. I think we've come to like near the end of our interview. Is there anything else like you would like to tell people who are possibly watching?
I think that this topic is something that's still very taboo. And it's okay if you are somebody that's going through it. It's okay if you're someone that knows of someone that's going through it. You don't have to change everything 180 degrees. It doesn't happen overnight. It is not something that you can deal with or pretend that it doesn't exist, because once you notice it, whether you are someone that experiences it yourself or see someone else that experiences it, as much as you will try to pretend it doesn't exist, it's always going to be sitting there at the back of your mind. So something you can do is really just talk about it. Like what I said, I think that's the most important thing that we can do, to raise awareness on this entire topic of bullying. If you're willing to talk about it, about your concerns, your sources of stress, people around you might take hope in the fact that since you are willing to talk about it, then I can talk about it too, and it does make a difference. So just talk about what's going on with you, about what you notice, and hopefully it will encourage people around you to do the same.
Okay. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and opinions. And thank you so much for coming to our podcast as a guest.
And thank you for taking the time to do this interview. So, this is the end of the podcast. Thank you to all our guests who were kind enough to come onto our podcast to talk with us. And to you, the viewers, thank you all for listening, and we hope that you will stay tuned until next time, where we continue to talk about your state of mind.